Have you ever caught someone's gaze across a room and felt an immediate, inexplicable connection? There's something profound happening in that moment, something Carl Jung might have recognized as the beginning of projection, recognition, and the dance of the unconscious mind. When our eyes meet another's, we aren't just seeing them, we're experiencing a complex psychological exchange that Jung believed revealed profound truths about ourselves. This isn't about manipulation or tricks to make someone fall for you. It's about understanding what happens in that shared moment of vulnerability when eyes truly connect. Think about the last time you looked into someone's eyes and felt truly seen. Perhaps it was your partner, a close friend, or even a stranger whose gaze lingered just a moment longer than expected. That sensation, a mixture of exposure and recognition, is what Jung called the meeting of souls. In America today, we're constantly distracted. Our eyes drift to screens. Notifications demand our attention, and genuine eye contact has become increasingly rare. When was the last time you actually held someone's gaze without feeling the need to look away? This avoidance isn't just social awkwardness, it's often fear of what might be revealed. Jung wrote extensively about how the eyes function as windows to the unconscious. When you truly see someone and allow yourself to be seen, you're engaging with parts of yourself typically hidden from conscious awareness. This isn't mysticism, it's psychology. The unconscious mind recognizes patterns and potential in others that our conscious mind hasn't yet processed. Let me share an example. A client once described meeting her now husband at a crowded coffee shop in Seattle. There were dozens of people there, she recalled. But when our eyes met, everything else seemed to fade away. What she experienced wasn't just attraction, it was recognition. Jung would suggest that she saw aspects of her own unconscious projected onto this stranger. Not just any aspects, but elements of her animus, the unconscious masculine personality within every woman. This is what happens when you truly connect through the eyes. You're not just seeing another person, you're seeing parts of yourself reflected back. Your unconscious recognizes something familiar yet foreign, something that completes what Jung called the transcendent function, the bridge between conscious and unconscious. The research backs this up. Studies show that prolonged eye contact increases oxytocin levels, often called the bonding hormone, and activates the same brain regions associated with reward and pleasure. But beyond the neurochemistry, something more mysterious occurs. Boundaries between self and other begin to blur in ways that modern psychology is still working to understand, but which Jung intuited decades ago. So what does it mean to really see someone with Jung's understanding? It means being present. It means allowing yourself to be vulnerable enough to be seen fully. It means recognizing that what draws you to another person often reveals what you're seeking within yourself. When eye contact becomes uncomfortable, ask yourself, what am I afraid might be discovered? What parts of myself am I projecting onto this person? What shadow elements, those disowned aspects of personality, might I be recognizing in their gaze? In American culture, we're taught to maintain eye contact during conversation as a sign of confidence and honesty, but we rarely discuss the deeper implications of truly seeing and being seen. This isn't about staring someone down to make them uncomfortable. It's about authentic connection, allowing your unconscious to speak to theirs through what Jung might call the language of the eyes. The next time you look into someone's eyes, try to remain conscious of what emerges within you. Notice the emotions, the memories, the associations that arise. These aren't random. They're valuable information from your unconscious, showing you what you recognize in this person. What happens when we move beyond that initial eye contact into something deeper? Jung believed that true connection, the kind that binds two people in lasting relationship, isn't just about what we see on the surface. It's about recognizing parts of ourselves in another person, parts we may not even realize exist within. This is where Jung's concept of the unconscious becomes particularly illuminating. When your eyes connect with someone and you feel that inexplicable pull, you're experiencing what Jung called projection, the unconscious attribution of your own repressed qualities onto another person. But unlike how we typically use the word projection today, Jung didn't see this as entirely negative. He saw it as necessary for psychological growth. Consider Sarah, a creative director in Chicago, who described meeting her partner. I couldn't look away. It wasn't just attraction. It felt like recognition, like I'd known him before. What Sarah experienced wasn't déjà vu or past life mysticism. It was her unconscious recognizing qualities in this man that complemented her own psyche. Qualities She needed to integrate to become more whole. This brings us to Jung's concept of individuation, the process of becoming your complete self by integrating unconscious elements into consciousness. Eye connection accelerates this process because when we truly see someone, we're often seeing disowned aspects of ourselves reflected back. Think about someone whose eyes captivate you. What qualities do they possess that you admire or find magnetic? Jung would suggest that these qualities represent aspects of your own potential that you haven't fully claimed yet. The intensity you feel isn't just attraction, it's recognition of your own possibilities. In American culture, we often reduce eye connection to a tactical dating strategy, maintain eye contact to show confidence, or look away after 3 seconds to create intrigue. These superficial approaches miss the profound psychological exchange that's actually occurring. When you look into someone's eyes authentically, you're inviting a conversation between unconscious minds, a conversation that can transform both people. The paradox is that the very vulnerability that makes deep eye contact frightening is what gives it power. By allowing yourself to be truly seen, without the masks and personas we typically wear, you create space for genuine connection. This is why maintaining eye contact during emotional conversations feels so intimate. You're not just hearing words, you're witnessing the other person's inner landscape. Research conducted at the University of Massachusetts found that eye contact activates the prefrontal cortex, the same brain region involved in understanding others' intentions and emotional states. When our eyes connect, we're not just seeing, we're perceiving the other's internal experience. This is what Jung might have called soul recognition, though he would have emphasized that it's not mystical, but psychological. There's a particular quality to eye contact that reveals our shadow elements, those parts of ourselves we've repressed or denied. Have you ever felt uncomfortable when someone holds your gaze a moment too long? That discomfort often arises because they're seeing past your persona to something more authentic, something you might not want to acknowledge. A business executive in Dallas described an encounter with a colleague. During our conversation, I felt like she could see right through me. It was unnerving, like she knew I was doubting my own decisions. This wasn't mind reading, it was unconscious recognition at work. His colleague's gaze reflected back his own self-doubt, making it harder to ignore. This is the transformative potential of eye connection. When someone truly sees you, they often reflect aspects of yourself you've been avoiding. And if you're willing to acknowledge these reflections rather than looking away, profound personal growth becomes possible. In relationships, this explains why initial eye connections can be so powerful yet misleading. The magnetism you feel isn't necessarily about the other person, it's about what they awaken in you. Jung would caution that these projections must eventually be withdrawn and integrated for a relationship to mature beyond initial fascination. Consider how many relationships begin with intense eye connection and chemistry, only to falter months later. From a Jungian perspective, this happens when we fail to recognize and reclaim our projections. The initial attraction was real, but it was partly based on seeing ourselves in the other person, qualities we need to eventually own rather than outsource. The most enduring relationships occur when two people can move beyond projection to authentic seeing. This requires courage, the willingness to withdraw projections and see both yourself and the other person more clearly. The initial magic doesn't disappear. It transforms into something more substantial. This is what Jung meant when he wrote about the meeting of two personalities like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. Eye connection initiates this chemical reaction, but the transformation requires consciousness. So the next time you find yourself captivated by someone's gaze, ask yourself, what am I seeing in this person that belongs to me? What aspects of myself am I recognizing? What shadows or potentials are being reflected back? These questions transform eye connection from a mere social interaction into a gateway for profound self-discovery. The depth of human connection through eye contact extends far beyond the personal unconscious into what Jung called the collective unconscious, that reservoir of shared human experience that transcends individual memory. When you look into someone's eyes and feel something ancient and familiar stirring within you, you're encountering what Jung termed archetypal recognition. These archetypes, universal patterns and images that reside in the collective unconscious, emerge in our attractions and connections in ways that feel fated or destined. This explains why certain eye connections feel laden with meaning, as if you're recognizing someone you've known forever, even when meeting for the first time. Consider Michael, a professor from Boston, who described meeting his wife. When our eyes met across that university library, I felt like I was experiencing something that had happened countless times before, not just to me, to humanity. What Michael encountered wasn't merely personal attraction, but an archetypal experience, the recognition of what Jung might call the anima, the feminine soul image carried within every man. The archetypal dimension of eye connection explains its sometimes overwhelming power. When you look into someone's eyes and feel the world drop away, you're experiencing what Jung called a constellation of the archetype, a moment when universal patterns erupt into personal experience with numinous force. For women, this often manifests as recognition of the animus, the inner masculine figure that Jung believed resided in the female unconscious. A writer from Portland described her experience. His eyes held a wisdom that seemed to complete something in me I didn't know was incomplete. It wasn't romantic at first. It was like finding a missing piece of myself. This completion sensation isn't illusion or idealization. It's the conscious mind encountering its unconscious complement. But here lies a crucial warning that Jung emphasized throughout his work. Projection of these archetypal images creates both the most profound connections and the most devastating disappointments. When we project the anima or animus onto another person without awareness, we burden them with godlike expectations no human can fulfill. This explains the common pattern in American dating culture, where intense initial connections fade into disillusionment. The eyes truly did see something real, but it was partially a recognition of internal archetypal figures projected outward. Without consciousness, these projections eventually collapse under their own weight. The path to lasting connection requires what Jung called withdrawing the projections, recognizing that these powerful archetypal energies belong primarily to our inner world, not to the other person. This doesn't diminish the connection. It transforms it from unconscious fascination to conscious relationship. A therapist in San Francisco described working with couples who initially connected through powerful eye contact. The ones who stay together long-term are those who can see the difference between the person sitting across from them and the archetypal image they've projected. They love the real person, not just their own unconscious reflected back. Jung believed that authentic relationship begins precisely when these projections are withdrawn, when we can see the other person as they truly are, separate from our unconscious needs and images. Paradoxically, this more realistic seeing creates deeper connection than the initial archetypal fascination. Consider the difference between infatuation and mature love. Infatuation thrives on archetypal projection, seeing the god or goddess in the other's eyes. Mature love emerges when you can see both the human reality and the archetypal depth simultaneously, without confusion between them. This perspective transforms how we understand eye connection in relationship formation. The magnetic pull you feel when your eyes meet someone else's isn't an instruction to capture them forever. It's an invitation to self-discovery. The attraction is real, but its deeper purpose may be psychological growth rather than just partnership. Eye contact also activates what Jung called the transcendent function, the psyche's ability to reconcile opposites and create new conscious positions. When eyes meet authentically, the boundaries between self and other temporarily dissolve, creating a third space where unconscious material can emerge into awareness. Research at UCLA found that sustained eye contact activates mirror neurons, specialized brain cells that help us understand others' actions and intentions. From a Jungian perspective, these mirror neurons might be the physiological basis for archetypal recognition, our biology's way of facilitating the profound psychological exchanges Jung described. This explains why authentic eye connection often feels simultaneously familiar and new. The familiarity comes from recognizing universal human patterns. The newness comes from encountering these patterns through this particular person, in this particular moment. Consider how cultures throughout history have recognized the power of the gaze. In ancient Egypt, the eye of Horus symbolized protection and royal power. In Greek mythology, meeting the gaze of Medusa turned men to stone. Native American traditions often include teachings about the power of seeing with soft eyes to perceive deeper realities. Jung would suggest these aren't merely cultural superstitions, but symbolic expressions of psychological truths about the transformative power of authentic seeing. In American culture, we've largely lost these traditions of sacred seeing. We avoid eye contact on public transportation, glance away in elevators, and substitute digital connection for face-to-face encounters. This cultural pattern may partially explain the epidemic of loneliness. We've forgotten how to truly see and be seen. Reclaiming the power of authentic eye connection doesn't require mystical practices or manipulation techniques. It simply requires presence, the willingness to be fully present with another human being, allowing your eyes to communicate without agenda or strategy. This presence has particular significance in our closest relationships. Research shows that couples who maintain quality eye contact during conversations report higher relationship satisfaction and emotional intimacy. From a Jungian perspective, this makes perfect sense. Regular eye connection keeps the relationship psychologically alive by maintaining the bridge between conscious and unconscious elements. A marriage counselor in Austin described working with couples in conflict. I often have them simply look into each other's eyes for 2 minutes without speaking. It's remarkable how often this exercise breaks through defenses that hours of talking couldn't penetrate. This breakthrough occurs because eye contact bypasses intellectual defenses, speaking directly to deeper levels of the psyche. But what about the darker side of eye connection? Jung was particularly interested in what he called the shadow, those disowned aspects of our personality that we typically repress or deny. In the context of eye connection, our shadow elements often emerge in feelings of inexplicable aversion or discomfort when meeting certain gazes. Have you ever met someone whose eye contact made you uncomfortable without knowing why? Jung would suggest you might be encountering your own shadow projected outward. The qualities that most disturb us in others often reflect disowned aspects of ourselves. This explains why certain eye connections feel threatening. They bring unconscious material uncomfortably close to consciousness. A corporate executive described an unsettling experience in a board meeting. There was a new member whose gaze I couldn't meet for more than a few seconds. Something about her eyes made me feel exposed. Further reflection revealed that this woman embodied qualities the executive had suppressed in herself: emotional sensitivity and intuitive decision-making that didn't fit her self-image as a purely rational leader. This shadow recognition represents perhaps the most valuable potential in eye connection, the opportunity to reclaim disowned parts of yourself. When someone's gaze makes you uncomfortable, it might be offering a path to greater wholeness through integration of shadow elements. Jung believed that dreams provide another window into the archetypal realm that complements what we experience. Through eye connection, notice if particular eye encounters appear in your dreams. These often reveal archetypal patterns at work in your psyche. A recurring dream about a stranger's penetrating gaze might indicate an encounter with what Jung called the self, the archetype of wholeness and the organizing center of the psyche. The integration of all these elements, personal unconscious, collective unconscious, shadow, anima, animus, and self, constitutes what Jung called the individuation process, the journey towards psychological wholeness. Eye connection accelerates this process by bringing unconscious content into relationship with consciousness. This perspective reframes the entire concept of attraction and connection. The person whose eyes captivate you isn't necessarily your soulmate or forever partner. They're a mirror reflecting aspects of your own psyche that seek recognition and integration. Sometimes this reflection indicates potential for lasting partnership. Sometimes it simply highlights areas for personal growth. Understanding this distinction requires what Jung called active imagination, the willingness to engage consciously with unconscious material rather than being passively swept away by it. When you feel that powerful eye connection, allow yourself to experience it fully, but also maintain enough psychological distance to ask, what within me is being activated? What is this connection trying to show me about myself? This balanced approach, fully experiencing while consciously reflecting, transforms eye connection from a merely romantic or social phenomenon into a pathway for profound psychological development. The eyes that captivate you may indeed belong to someone with whom you'll share a significant relationship, but their deepest gift is always the invitation to become more fully yourself. In the end, Jung might suggest that the most powerful eye connection isn't with another person at all, but with yourself, the willingness to look honestly into your own depths, embracing both the light and shadow you discover there. When you can truly see yourself, you become capable of authentic connection with others, free from the distortions of unconscious projection. This is the ultimate promise in Jung's understanding of psychological development. Not that you'll find someone to complete you, but that you'll become complete within yourself, capable of relationship without dependency. The eyes that recognize this wholeness in another are the ones that truly see beyond archetypal fascination to human reality. So the next time you find yourself captured by someone's gaze, remember, what you're seeing isn't just them. It's a mirror reflecting aspects of your own psychological journey. Their eyes may indeed be gateways to profound connection, but the ultimate destination is always greater wholeness within yourself.